Welcome back to the iHealth channel, iHealth Radio. Another show, another guest, a special guest as always. I have Dr. Lori Baker-Schena, and she's going to take us into a road and a path of positivity. Now, we've talked about positivity in previous shows, but there's not enough discussion about positivity. And today, it's really pivot to the positive in everything we do. And, uh, you know, Dr. Baker has a lot of background in terms of this topic, in terms of really getting people excited and turning them into like, from bad to best to better and so on and so forth. So really tonight I have the pleasure and I want to thank you first of all for being with us. It is a true pleasure to have you. And we really want to get all that good juice and insights from you. And let's get us that positive vibe. So, Doctor, how are you?
I am great. It is so great to be on your show. And I think your listeners are so lucky to have you because we need more positivity in the world. And when you just set it out there, people need to hear it. And we always sit in these studios and you never really, it's hard to kind of comprehend how much your message is resonating with people. And I was on a Clubhouse talk today, and I was explaining that we really need to be very aware of the fact that we can change lives, we can make a difference with our words. And that's why positivity is so important, because what you put out there is what people are going to get. And there's not enough positivity in the world to balance all the negativity. So the more programs you do, the more we talk about it, the better off we're all going to be.
Well, I would agree, and no, and again, believe it or not, again, the mission of our channel and radio is to educate, enlighten, motivate, and inspire. And so it's all about positivity, keeping up there and pushing people to be better in anything that they do. And so pivot to the positive. That's really what it is. Some of us sometimes go through challenges, and no one can claim that they never gone through challenges. I mean, it's part of life, right? We go up and down, but the question is how we deal with it. And so it's the mindset, and so that's really, something that is dear to me, and I try to push as much of. And I love when my guests, on the show, kind of like bring in some real energy and real vibe. And frankly, this last year is a very, interesting year in terms of historic, events, and positivity in this time, is really a medicine, because
Yes.
really mental state and everything's been affected. People are just, they have enough. It's a lot of stuff that they've been, financially, personal, all the other stuff. And now, we want folks to listen, to get excited, to get really a new, like almost like a reset. And so Dr. Baker-Schena or Lori, I won't call it Lori.
Lori, it's perfect. It's perfect.
Lori. So let's go back and first of all, tell us about your background. How did it all started? In terms of where you went, in the beginning and until you started doing these things and getting people excited.
Well, it's kind of in my DNA. I had a very wonderful father who was always telling me that I could be whatever I wanted to be and do whatever I wanted to do. And I was very lucky. A lot of people don't have that growing up, that someone in their lives to give them confidence. And that's why I've always stressed that when you don't have it when you're growing up, you can always get it moving forward just because you haven't had it as a child. I was lucky to have it as a child. So I've had my life in three chapters, I call them. The first chapter, I was in marketing and public relations, and I started my own business when I was 29, and I absolutely love being an entrepreneur. I realized in my 20s that working for somebody else just wasn't my thing. I didn't like to be micromanaged. I worked super hard, and I wanted to be paid for every moment that I worked. So I ended up starting my own business and doubled my salary the first year out. And at business, that marketing healthcare business is still going today. I still have a couple of clients who it's hard to get rid of because I really don't want to release them. They're very close to me. But that was a very 33 years of that business. So part two, when I was about 32, I got a call from my local university, where Cal State Northridge, I'm in Los Angeles, and they had an emergency hire situation. They needed someone to teach. And I had never taught. I had an MBA at the time, so I had a higher degree, but I never taught. I thought, well, this is kind of fun. I'll give it a shot. And the thing that's scary about this is that college professors do not need to have any training as a teacher to be in the classroom. There's no credential programs, there's no nothing. So that's why when people are in the university setting and you have some really great teachers and some not so great, there's no class for teaching. So I was thrown in there myself and I shook like a leaf the first couple of weeks, but I figured it out. And 25 years later, I ended up being a full-time professor of journalism and public relations, and also, continuing my business. And in the meantime, I got a doctorate in organizational leadership because leadership to me has always been fascinating. And so I was able to do that too. So in my classroom, I taught public relations and marketing. So I have a real deep marketing background, but I always gave it a motivational spin because my college students really needed that extra encouragement to go out and find out what they wanted to do. So I laced everything with motivation. So it's always, because I've always been positive. I've been, I, I think I just realized how happy I am when I am positive. And it's kind of like a drug. The more positive you are, the more happy you are. And of course, that feels good. So that kind of was the background on that. So what happened in my mid 50s was I got hit with a non-Hodgkin's lymphoma cancer diagnosis. And I realized at that moment that I really wanted to start a professional speaking business and a leadership coaching business. So I left a full-time position and I started what today is my leadership coaching and professional speaking business. And my whole thing, just like yours, is pivoting to the positive because I realize that so many people need to hear this message, both personally and professionally. And we can never move forward. And all the four things that your program represents, you cannot achieve any of them being negative. So we really need to get the positivity habit going and keeping it there, no matter if you get hit by cancer, money issues, job issues, personal issues. You can't move forward being negative. I mean, you can be sad and angry and all those sorts of things, but at the end of the day, if you want to move forward, it has to be positive.
Wow. So I have to like just settle here a little bit and get all these thoughts together in place. But so first things first, you had a great career to start. I mean, marketing, communications, that's big. I mean, I've in one part of my career, I actually had to lead marketing. But for the most part, I work in conjunction with marketing. I'm in
Mhm.
sales, leadership sales in the insurance business. And I understand well about marketing and communication, and that is a big piece of any company, right? And so that was, but I know also it is a tough place to be. It's a tough,
Yes.
the deadlines, the details, the responsibility. I mean, it's everything that's out there. You are responsible, so the quality has to be there, and the scrutiny. And there's no real life. I mean, I've seen marketers, in the company that lived in the office. I mean, there's a project, there's something that's got to come out on Monday. They're working on Saturday and Sunday, no hours.
Absolutely. No life. You're absolutely right.
Oh, and I appreciate each one of those folks because I mean we work closely and it's tough. And so and I understand what you did. I mean, to your point also, you can put all that work, but the satisfaction, I mean, even financial is not equating in that exact time and energy and all the investment you put in. And so the ideal obviously is to have your own. Now, most of the people have a difficulty thinking to making that leap, that transfer, going from an employee to an ownership, type of situation. Various reasons, financial, just the ability, fear, all these things can be like, reasons why people do not jump. And sometimes people jump. They, no risk, no reward. You got to do it. You got to make it happen. But you have to have a plan. And of course, the rest is history. You just get started and, you learn as you go, you fall, you stand. But you have to have the stamina. You have to have some backing and a good plan for it. And so just the reason I'm talking about all this, because I could relate to that. And that is in itself a way to look at the world of positivity, because there is a situation that was not solid. I mean, it was problematic in a way because you're not happy. That's a key element, right? You work in and you see that it's a dead end, and even if it is, it's a cutthroat job. I mean, I know marketing can be
Absolutely.
very, tough, and also like the I guess the advancement level can be there, but at a very high price, and so ultimately it's ideal to have your own. But again, people have to start somewhere. We all start, and you got to learn, and you have to get the expertise to get somewhere from there. Well, you did. That's the first. I think that's part of positive itself. I mean, think it positive. Like, things are going to happen. I got to make a move, but I will make it work. And so,
Right.
for people that are listening, probably, if they're wondering, like, can I do it? Yes, you can. That's how I believe. And I think you did. Not only you believed in it, you did it, and you did it multiple times.
Yes, absolutely.
So then go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, no, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, so from there, you went to a whole different career path, which is very similar. I mean, you went to journalism and really academia, and you went to the being a professor in not so easy, I guess, university. It's
Yeah, that's a tough one.
that's a tough one. But even with that, you said it. I mean, you're right. I mean, people are professors, and some you feel them. There's a vibe, and some they just basically, you just go through the motion, do your stuff, and that's it. But that's personality. Now, and to your point, I mean, you can teach this stuff in class, but you cannot teach personality. Unfortunately, you have
No, no, you can't.
so it's a matter of like having that energy and dynamics, and that's why it's not for everyone. And I'm not at your level. I never taught in the university and stuff, but I had actually a real estate school, so it's a small little
Well,
thing.
that's really the same principle. It's the same principle. You have to teach, and you've got to bring that energy to the teaching, and you've got to learn how to relate to people. It is the exact same thing.
Well, so the reason I said that is because you're right. I can't even imagine what it takes to be a professor in a university. I mean, I've been in university, I've had professors, but that's different. I was on the other side. But I mean, you do lectures sometimes. They give you little things. You stand and do your thing, whatever your thesis, all that stuff. But at the end of the day, you were not teaching. But I actually got engaged into the training world, and I enjoy training people. It's fun stuff. So from there, I went to this real estate business that I did, on the side. And so, but in there, we had different instructors. And then we had all the surveys, like, how people evaluate. And you'll be surprised to see, like, what people say. It's really about just the energy and how, like, some teachers or instructors, they'll just basically read the book.
Uh,
Or
yes,
they just
it's
have the student,
horrible.
you know, and I have a different approach. See, I can't stand that. I mean, if I want to read a book, I go home and read it. So for me, it's more about like what is the concept and how does it apply, and that's really what makes a difference in terms of interact. Plus, everybody's interactive, everybody's involved in the discussion. So that was it. So again, I get it. I mean, it's very difficult, but it's also fun stuff. Now, you took the challenge to teach the higher folks and the higher degree level of education, and it's a big deal. I mean, it's a challenge, but you kept positive. You went, you got your PhD, right? And again, you kept always going positive and moving to the next. Now, what I'm hearing from your story is that you also had a very life turning event. I mean, having cancer is no picnic. And people sometimes wonder about, like, I have a tough life, I have this, but there's nothing tougher than when you know that something's wrong with your health. Because
That's correct.
you can financially change things. You can move from places, you can even reduce your lifestyle and still live happy if you want to. But one thing you can't control, you don't know what the outcome of your health is. And without health, I always say health is wealth.
Health is wealth, because without health, you have nothing.
Exactly. So you turned that because you made a decision, a commitment that no, this is not going to beat me. Whatever the outcome is, I'm going to stand and do what I have to do, go through the motions and make it work. And then not only that, it gave you not only went back and you made it and you succeeded and you passed it with flying colors, you turn it to something that is vocational, something that you wanted to do. And now you're doing it with success.
It's just you're absolutely right, and it's just such a great feeling. And when you look at people who wanted to make that move from employee to owner, there's a couple of things. You're right on my level, because that whole idea of strategic risk, where you take the time to learn the trade, you take the time to kind of do a side gig until you jump into your own gig. I worked really hard to get a business going before I took the plunge to start my own business. But the one thing that holds so many people back, and I know you know this, is fear. And so I always ask my clients, let's take a deep dive into that fear. What does that fear look like? So when I started my own business, I was 29, and it was a really good job I was leaving. And people, and it was during the recession, it was 1987, and people were saying to me, Lori, you are going to fail. I mean, right to my face, you're going
Okay.
to fail. And I don't know how you're going to do this. And you just, there's no way you can make a living at this point. And this is actually, and I'm really dating myself, but we just got fax machines and computers. So we could like work from home type of thing. But where the technology had started. And so I thought, so I'd go home and I thought to myself, okay, what's the worst thing that happens if I fail? Well, I'm not going to die. I'm not going to starve. I'm not going to lose my home. My friends who love me will still love me. My fiance at the time will still, no doubt, marry me. So, what is the worst thing if I absolutely fail? If I go out there and don't get any clients and don't get any money, what's the worst thing that could happen to me? Well, I'll just get another job. I'll just have to go back and get another job. So when you do those deep dives into what are you really afraid of, they don't make any sense. And so it's crucial when I do coaching and people are feeling stuck, the first thing we look at is what are you afraid of? And we cannot let fear rule us because we live once. Life is not a dress rehearsal. We are living right now. And I couldn't stomach being miserable in a job. I just couldn't do it. Life's too short and you only have a chance once. So, what is it going to take? And your ability to fail and fail hard, fail fast, fail often, and get back up and learn and grow, that's what life's all about. And that's what it matters. And that is why I really encourage my clients and even those, still in corporate America to really figure out your passion and don't be afraid to pursue it because fear is such a hindrance.
Well, so you just touch on two elements right there. One, so we talked about fear, and that's really what makes people do things or don't do things. But really, the success and failure, two components that I think that I'm reading there. One, failure. See, I don't believe in failure. The only time you fail is when you stop. So
Right.
doing, you're not failing. I mean, yes, you are having issues, like technical issues that you can overcome. But the minute you stop and you give up, that's when you fail. And frankly, even failure can still be a win if you learn from it.
Absolutely. We have shamed failure. Failure has been shamed in our society. And yet, if you read all the books about all the successful entrepreneurs, there's a huge element of failure. And there's no such thing as overnight success. You have to fail to see what you're doing. And I wish one of my big wishes is that our society didn't shame failure. There's only two people that I don't want to fail. I don't want my pilot to fail, and I don't want my surgeon to fail. But everybody else, they can figure out. I've done so, and then own the failure, and say, I am going to really try harder the next time and figure this out because I fail every day. I'm always screwing something up because I'm doing new things and meeting new people and I'm always trying to up my game, whether it's my speaking, my coaching, and that is what's so invigorating. And if I look at the end of the day and I'm thinking, well, that didn't work out. The secret is not to beat yourself up. I never beat myself up. I never say, Lori, you're so stupid. I can't believe you did that. Instead, you say, Lori, this is what you did. This is what you should have done. And this is what we're going to learn. And when you do that, you really can elevate your life, both personally and professionally. Look, we've all had bad relationships too. I mean, we all have had bad relationships. So instead of beating yourself up for attracting the same person all the time, you figure out what it is and how you're going to elevate it again. So that kind of failing but learning is how you grow and how you ultimately are successful. But we don't teach kids that. We protect them. We don't teach them how to fail. And I think that's a huge, huge deficit that we're not giving our children what they need to learn to do that.
Well, I think that's an excellent point. But I think what's worse is that when you look at today, I mean, I have a few teenagers, in my household, and I can see what they're exposed to too. So everybody, like you look at anything in social media, and you got all these guys that, oh, I made $1 million. I did this, I did that. So everybody thinks that it just happened. Well, ask them what did they do before, how long did it take them, and so on and so forth. You see these things, I make I make $100,000 last week. All right, well, I've been working for a long time, and that's not easy money to make. Okay, you know, I've had businesses, and I still have businesses, and you know what? Putting a business together, a real business, takes time, energy, and a lot of stuff, and it's not overnight. Now, maybe 1% or less gets lucky, and you get that little break, but that break happens to anyone any given time. As long as you're in it, you got to be in it to win it, just like the lottery, right?
Absolutely.
But really, people, today, they're just subjected to that. They see it, and so they think that, oh, they did it. Obviously, so I have a rule. If someone can do it, I can do it. No matter what, I have to learn. If I don't know it, I have to learn it, but I will do it.
It's a
So,
great thing, except it's come for me, like singing and dancing. But yes, other than that,
believe it or not, it's funny you said that because you can learn dancing and you can learn singing. As a matter of fact,
yes,
with the technology today, you don't even have to sing. You can just say words and the computer does the rest.
you're so right. You are
I,
so
I hear
right. You
songs
are
right now,
so
they're
right.
not songs. They're just music with words, but anyone can actually throw in a good words with a nice little synthesizer computer, whatever, and they get all your voice, into the right place. I have a hoarse voice. I don't think I can sing. But I guarantee you, if I put it on the computer, they'll make it look good.
You know what? You're so right. But that's a great point. That I like, and that can-do attitude is all about positivity. Because if you're negative, there's no way you can have that. But that beautiful can-do attitude that you just demonstrated really shows the power of positivity and the importance of staying in that positive space.
But you stated a very good definition of how to avoid that. Because the people, I think, what they listen, well, they think this is exactly what everybody's going through. What Obviously they have to list everything that can go wrong. Like, well, equally list everything that can go right.
Exactly.
But so that's the thing. Like, you can look at the again, cup half full, cup half empty. It depends how you look at it. You can see, someone sees the rain and says, "Oh my God," or someone sees the rain is like, "Okay, we're gonna have crops." I mean, you can, you see a wave, I see a surfboard. Someone sees a wave and say, "I'm gonna drown." So it's also your mindset,
Exactly.
how you look at things. But one trick I use, and I literally use it when from every situation, I take a pen and a paper, and I put pros and cons side by side, add them up. And to your point, the equation is always going to win on the side where it's going to be positive, as long as you do it. But you have to know how to visualize this, and really get excited about it. And you have to also believe in yourself.
Yes. That believing in ourselves, it's so important. It's so important. And for some people, it's so difficult to do. And it's sad because again, I'm fortunate I had a father who really believed in me, and I had that strong. My mom died when I was young, so he was just he really stepped it up and did that. And I really appreciate that. But I part of my coaching is really helping people understand that when you don't believe in yourself, you're cheating others of your gifts. Because if you don't believe yourself and you don't go do that business or give what you want to give of yourself, you are cheating that person who needs your service, who needs to meet you, who needs to hear you. And so that's almost a very selfish thing. So when you look at yourself, you really have to be accurate. So that's a whole nother thing too. Who am I? How do I see myself? How do people around me see me? And getting that accurate picture of you is so important. And again, it's all through that lens of positivity.
Listen, I couldn't agree more. That is really the recipe to success. And it's funny because you mentioned leadership training, and we want to talk about leadership as well. But you're right. I mean, if you're going to be a leader in leading others, and you don't believe in yourself, how can people believe in you in the first place, right? So
Exactly.
we're gonna touch. I love leadership, trainings and coaching and things like that. So we're definitely gonna dive into that in a minute. But we talked about two components. One of them is success, and yes, one of the key success is not having money always. Healthy is good, having good family, having a good upbringing, all that stuff. But also the ability to do things you love. If you don't, like you just said it, if I don't love my work, then why am I in it? And sometimes people get stuck in a job, dead end job, something they don't understand, they don't want, and they're miserable. One, they make everybody else miserable, especially if they're in a leadership, well, managerial role. I would not call it leadership, but then, or even without, but then they don't make the right money, and they complain. Well, listen. there's jobs out there. There's career, and like if there's no opportunity, make one.
Exactly.
You can create your
And
own opportunity.
and I believe all managers should be leaders
They
because
should be, but not
they
every manager is a leader.
absolutely. And I'll tell you what the biggest thing that makes me crazy is, and this is what like my legacy, what I want to do to the day I die, because this makes me nuts. We promote people based on how good they do things. Like, oh, he's a good, communicator, we'll make him a supervisor, or he's good at, doing this architectural stuff, we'll make him a supervisor. And they do that without giving them any leadership training. So all of a sudden you have this person, male or female, supervising a staff of 10, 20 people who've never learned how to do conflict management, who've never learned how to run a functional team, who've never learned how to communicate as a leader. And you have misery up and down and sideways in an organization because of the lack of training. And you know this, you're a leadership trainer. So it's so crucial that we understand the importance of having managers as leaders and having them, giving them the skills they need. And this is particularly important for women. And I have another business called Leadership Consortium, because women have that added, unfortunately, have that added level and layer of not being as confident in the workplace as men. And it's just a fact of life. When I was teaching, and I would ask my male students, how would you feel about asking for more money during a job interview? And they said, not a problem. I have no problem asking for what I need. The women had a problem asking for more money than, let's say, the job offered. And that's just the way we're raised, we grow up in society. I mean, it's too long to talk about now, but we really need to help women get beyond that and get that confidence to go in there, and not as cranky women, but as just assertive, confident women, and get things done. But someone has to do the leadership training, because we can't do that on our own. And every time you see you and your audience is, I bet, shaking their heads right now. Every time you had a bad boss, not a badass boss, which is a good boss, but a bad boss, you better know that there was no leadership training of this person, or they were such a narcissist that they wouldn't allow themselves to be trained. And that makes me crazy.
Well, you use the words manager, boss, and leaders. Three words, and they can literally be one or could be three different things. And there are a lot of bosses. They're not good managers nor leaders. You have managers that are technically bosses, but they have nothing to do with leadership. And they have leaders that are lost because they're not really given the opportunity to lead. And
Yes,
you know,
yes.
and it's funny because so I run sales teams. And so it's all about, leadership and training and stuff. But not every person on the team will be a manager, can be a manager. They're good at what they do, but they have no idea how to be, leading other people where people can follow them and listen to them and respect them and really take their advice, and also how they can, because again, to be a leader is more than just, leading. It's educating, mentoring, coaching. You're really making other leaders. If you're a true leader, you have to make other leaders and
Yes.
document that literally in your history. So, but that's not easy. People also have to respect you and not fear you. You just said bad boss. Bad boss is someone you're afraid of. You just, oh my God, I just want to get my job done. I don't want to deal with this person. Again, talking about not happy. If you're talking to someone that is that kind of boss, well, change the department, change the company, or take it to HR if you have to. I mean, sometimes you have to do more than that. But whatever the case may be, leadership is really a calling, I call it, because it's not for everyone.
Nope.
And frankly, that's why we have less leaders in the world than actually, plenty more followers, because no one wants to take the lead. That's the other thing. There's a fear of taking accountability, being in charge. People are afraid to make a mistake, and so
Yes.
rather follow instructions but not be able to make. I see that every day. And I'm talking about our highest levels. It's not just, I'm talking about employee level, entry level. Even in senior leadership, as we call it senior leadership, there are senior leaders that are not leaders. They have the titles of a position that is in leadership role, but they might not be leaders in personality or a person of leadership characteristics. And sometimes, it's a big deal because it's a clash of the titans. You can't get them. Like, how do you even think about this? I mean, you have the position to run, different things, a department, division, a unit, but yet you can't even see the vision. You can't even express a vision Because that's the other thing. You have a vision to lead. You have directives. How do you convey that message? How you do it correctly? How you make it work? It's a lot of stuff. I mean, it's you have to be absorbed. But you're right. You can have the personality, but you may lack the technicalities. The technique. To make it work. That's when trainings come in. But you're right. If someone is not coachable, they're not willing, and they're very like, I got this. I'm a fool. I don't know anything. I got it. I have all the knowledge in the world. No one has all the knowledge in the world. I mean, to be honest with you, you learn every day. And if the day you stop learning, then something's wrong with you. But some people think that they got it. Now, I get it. If you're in a technical, aspect, like your stuff, it's good. You're an expert. That doesn't mean you're not learning. You learn other things that will help you even get better. But certainly, it doesn't stop. And even within your expertise, things are always changing.
Always
Any
changing.
field,
It's
there
so
is.
amazing.
So you got to be up to date with everything, technology. At best, I mean, you're talking about 80s and 90s technology. Well, if you don't, follow the technology, you will find yourself behind it. And I've seen this. I've seen in different levels of management or leadership where some people did not catch up to the actual times in the technology, and they might have more difficulty, doing things. And it's not their fault. It's just a matter of catching up. But really, you have to be ahead of it, not even catching up. Catching up is a little too late.
Exactly. And be willing to be a change agent. So many people have such a hard time changing, and people don't like change. I mean, in general, people they have their comfort zone, and that's where they want to stay. And that's a problem when you have different generations come in, because you've got the younger people who are interested in the new things. You've got the older people who don't want to change. And that too makes for a very difficult leadership situation. That's why I always suggest mentoring and reverse mentoring. So when you have young people, they can have a mentor who's been in the business a long time and can help, but then allow the young people to mentor the older person on the new technology, the new customer base you might have, the new things that are going on, so that there's a cross pollination of knowledge. It's just not one way, and that really makes for a dynamic situation. But it makes me crazy when managers who obviously are not leadership material are promoted and promoted and promoted, and they need to be trained, but they won't be trained. So that's something that we need to really, I think, address moving forward. And if you're in that situation, if you're working for that person, they're not going to change if they don't want to change. So you have to really think about what you want to do with your life.
And it's again, that's the other thing. Like, to me, I say this: if you're not happy, even me, if I'm not happy, the minute I'm not happy, there's plenty of options out there. Just you walk. I mean, you high road. Heads up, and I walk on my own terms. I mean, that's it. And you know what? I go somewhere else. And by the way, the grass is never always green on the other side. So
That's correct.
you're gonna find challenges everywhere you go. So again, you have to outweigh things, and put them in a good balance and see exactly what you get. But at the end of the day, you are in control. Like I always say, it's not about the rest; it's about you. You can put yourself in a situation. This town doesn't work for me. I move to a different town. This job doesn't work for me. I move to, and it's like a residence, right? I don't like my neighborhood. I go to a different neighborhood, and I'll work towards it. So if I can't afford it, I'll make sure that I make money enough to go there. Whatever. I mean, I'm just giving an example. But
No, it's a great example.
we can get ourselves from any situation out, but sometimes you said comfort zone. Like, I know I have friends and people that I know that they've been comfortable in their roles for years, and that's nothing wrong with that. But but as long as they don't complain, it's a good thing. But when people are miserable or complaining, it's like, well, what have you done? You know, it's like being at a station, see people come in and go, and you're still in the same position, and you're not getting onto that train. Every train is coming in and gone, and like, what? I just missed all the trains. Well, get on. It's too
Exactly.
late.
That's a great analogy. That's exactly it. And if you are miserable, I don't want to hear it. Life's too short to hear it. You so and that brings me to the tool that you were talking about, mindset. What I coach is the mindset called the solution shift. And what that is, and it's a real visual thing, is instead of living in the problem, we need to shift into living into the solution. So I call it the solution shift. So we're going to have problems every day. there's never going to be a day where you walk around and there's not a problem, whether it's your business, your personal life, something's always coming up. And then with COVID, it was like another layer of problems, another layer of challenges that we've never even experienced before, right? So you could wake up in the morning and make that decision. I'm going to be miserable. I'm going to just dwell on my problems all day. Or you can say, you know what? I know that there's a problem. What is the solution to that problem? And once you train your mind to back away from the problem, look at it, but don't live in it, and instead live in the solution, all of a sudden you go from being a victim to becoming empowered. And that is really a great place to be, because no matter what crap is thrown at you, you can take care of it and you can take care of yourself. And all of a sudden, it's like like exercising. It's like a core exercise. You shift all the time from that problem to that solution. Suddenly it becomes natural for you to look at the world in a positive, light-filled way that's solution oriented. And that is what I try to bring to people to help them get out of that problem and into the solution.
You know, it's funny. I'm listening to you. I'm just smirking because I have this rule, another rule at work, which is you're right. Problems are going to happen every day. There's always something that pops out. I mean, especially when you deal with membership and health and staff and even as simple the weather turns on you. Now we have fleets out there. You need staffing. Someone doesn't show up. You have an event schedule, whatever the case may be. So people come to, oh my God, we have a problem. It's like, so bring me a solution. The problem happened already. I can't do anything about the problem. We can do something about it not happening later, meaning we can figure out a way to prevent it if potentially possible. But right now, we can debate all why it didn't happen. Let's talk about what we can do to make it, disappear and move on. But that's really what it is. But you're right. It's a matter of how you look at things. And there are people that don't have that drive. They'd rather dwell on that, because instead of thinking or creating a solution or thinking about multiple solutions, they're thinking about well, they're worried. That's the other part. To your point, again, leadership versus no leadership. If they're worried to bring a problem because they're afraid of their job, and if you're a true leader, you would know that, there is no such thing as not a problem. You're basically minimizing the risk of problems, so you can be at a 99.9%, but there's always 0.01% or 0.1% that's going to happen. But if you think that is going to be like 100% nothing, it's not going to happen. You're going to have a percentage. So you have to be, but if people are afraid to act because something happened, so things happen, and yes, I mean, even like in my world, we work with government programs, so we have to report to some government agencies, right? So there's a cap, there's corrective action plans, all this stuff that has to be done. But frankly, I've sat down with these audits and stuff when things happen. You have to justify it happened. We put a remedy in place. There is an audit trail. There's this, there's that. It's not happening. The system, the procedure now works. Done. They're not going to penalize you for it as long as it doesn't cost money or you got paid on money that you shouldn't.
Right.
If you did, you got to pay it back. But
and you learn.
Exactly. And that bigger companies, the largest companies have trouble sometimes. I mean, even you're talking about Fortune 500 companies, they get through headaches too. They got scrutiny. They have different agencies that get into them and stuff. And even super bosses and super, leaders, and CEOs and C-suite, level still can get in trouble. Governors, elected officials, we all human. We all can make mistakes and things operationally can break. It doesn't matter. I'm not talking about mechanically, but, even through the flow of something happens, miscommunication, that's a big one. It happens all the time and it can cause problems in process. Mail can be a problem. I mean, simple. You're expecting something to go, a file didn't happen, things were delayed, now you have a problem, chaos. So people thrive, I think, on chaos, whereas you should not do that. I mean, things happen, you got to stop panicking. We have to adjust, basically identify, I call it SOS, see it, own it, solve it.
Nice.
So that's it. Now you're good. Now you go on the next level, make it happen. And then you put the system in place for it not to happen again. Or if it happens, you will have measures to tackle it quickly. And that's really, what it is. But yeah, it sounds easy now, us talking about it, but it takes a lot of energy. But again, it takes that mindset to be positive, to see the positivity, as opposed to oh my God. But you're right. If someone's negative, you're going to think of every reason why the world ended.
Exactly. And, so two things that you said that really struck out to me. Number one is you can't lead from fear because it doesn't get you anywhere. You cannot be afraid. And again, what's the worst thing that can, if you get fired, okay, you'll find another job. I mean, that, that whole thing, or if I lose money or whatever, you have, you've seen people in business that are fear-based leaders, and they're annoying they can't make a decision. They're so afraid to take a step forward. It's just awful. And the other thing that I always say when you're talking about the solution shift is you really have to know what you can control and what you can't. Literally identify that on a piece of paper, because most of the things we can't control. You can't control the economy. You can't control how a customer will react to what you're selling. There's not much you can control. However, you can control how you react to it. And I vote that however you react to it, you do it in a very positive way. And that is the ticket. But worrying about things you can't control, like the weather or the economy or COVID, I mean, that's the ultimate. None of us saw that coming. I've been around a long time. I've never experienced anything like that. I'm in LA. We shut down, about a year ago. It was insane. I lost 7 presentation speaking gigs, in a month. All of a sudden the world just, whoa, so I could have either sat there and cried about, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? Or I needed to pivot to the positive. What's the solution? Virtual presentations. Do I know how to do this? No, I've done a couple, but to figure out the PowerPoints and how to engage an audience when you don't see anybody. I mean, all this stuff, but I learned it. I could have said, no, I'm going to fail and this is the end of the world. Or, you know what? There's got to be opportunity here and I got to be. So I ended up having a very successful year because I pivoted not only to virtual presentations and not only to more virtual coaching as opposed to on-site, but I pivoted to the positive. I think, let's do this. So it comes down to knowing what you can control and what you can't, and sticking with that solution-oriented positive approach.
Well, I relate to everything you say, and actually, I believe in what you're saying. It's funny because you're right. Anyone listening to this can exactly do that. Anyone who's watching can do that. And it's sometimes, if they haven't thought about it or they've never considered it, it's not rocket science. It's simple. It's a shift. And the shift is like, what can I do to make it work? It's survivalistic. Actually, as humans, we have that. We will survive, in any situation as long as we're willing and not panicking. That's the part. Like panic and fear are the first ones that turn everybody into negative, and then everything gets gloomy and it gets worse. In one of the shows, we have a recurring show. It's called the Gerasim Hour with Gabriel Gerasim, and we talk about mindset. We talk about not spirituality, but we talk about energies, and really that's what it is. Positivity and negativity are exactly what they are. They're energies. It's like if it's heat and cold, you want to get in an ice box or you want to be in the heat. So that's the whole thing. But you can go to positive, and the energy is going to be big. We see that in engagement. People that are positive, it's kind of like contagious, and vice versa. If you're like surrounded with people that are moody and everything is wrong, and the world is like always, it's like always dark. Get out. It's like it's funny. Star Wars. I love Star Wars. So the dark side and the Force. I mean, really think about it exact now as a sample, but it is fact. But we can turn. The dark force can be bad, but you can get out of it. You can get out of the actual negative, the gloomy, and just stay positive. And look at positive people. That's the other environment, influence. If you surround yourself with people that are like always going to put you down, you're going to do it. And by the way, you said a word that actually hurt when I was a kid. You can't do it. You're not going to do it. You're going to fail. You can't. Why are you going to do this? I'm moving from one place to the other. Like, oh, you're going to go there? You're crazy? Like I was in Orlando. People say, you going to New York? It's like, yeah. It's like, well, you can stay here and have a life. Yeah, I can have a life here, but I want to have, if I can make it in New York, I can make it anywhere else. So that's what people said. So I'm going to go and test my life in there. And it worked out. But I could have listened to them like, they really don't want you. People actually, like me and my wife, even with the shows and stuff, in the beginning, people are like, oh, you can't do this. And people tell you like, oh, oh, really? You're going to do this stuff? It's not going to work. Well, you do your thing, I do me. And when I do me, I'm going to do it right and I'll work for it. And yes, if I fail, it's okay. You're not paying for it. You're not investing in it. And it's not your time, my money, my value. And I will do whatever it takes to make it, succeed. Yes. And what happens if it fails? To your point, nothing. I would have learned a lot of stuff and I'm going to be a better person than when I started. And then I can take that same knowledge and apply it even in another company if I have to go. But that's it. But it's really how you set yourself to succeed versus to fail. And I think people set themselves to fail. And it's unfortunate, but
Absolutely. And which brings up another great issue that you brought up, is you cannot worry about what people think of you, because you cannot make everybody happy. It's interesting. I do a lot of work with creating a personal leadership brand, which is such a fascinating topic about how you show up in the world and what you want people to know about you. It's just very fun. It's very fun. So I was speaking to a group of about 500 people down in San Diego. And a lot of times they always have these evaluations that they give you for the audience. Well, what do you think of the speaker? Which is annoying because they just met you. It's fun. I get it, but it is what it is. And hopefully I've learned a lot of good tricks from it, but a lot of people are just cranky. So I spoke my heart out. Great. I thought I gave a great presentation. I get a ton of evaluations. One of them stuck out. The guy said it was the worst presentation he had ever seen, and they should never bring me back. And then the next evaluation later, the woman said, this is the best thing I've ever seen. I'm going to be able to put this to work for me in my office, and I'm sure I can go get that promotion. And I was up there on the stage being Lori and doing the same thing. And it really opened up my eyes that, first of all, we can't control how others perceive us. That guy might have had a really crappy morning with his wife. I mean, fighting, whatever happened. Or maybe he didn't want to even be at that conference, right? So that's the lens he looked at. I had no control over how he woke up in the morning. And that other gal, she might have been having a tough day, but she needed that jolt of positivity and how to show up and how to create a brand. So she was ready to hear it. Again, no control. So I've learned that we have no control over how other people will react to us, whether they like us or not. I don't try to be likable necessarily. I just come from my authentic self of wanting to help. And some people like it, some people don't. But that's not what's going to motivate me. My motivation is to give, and hopefully people get this advice and really elevate their lives. But people who are so worried about what other people are going to think of them, it's paralyzing, and it never moves you forward. So that's such a really important lesson. And again, I showed up as the same person, and I got those two different viewpoints, and it's fascinating to me.
Well, it is, and it's funny because you said that. I mean, most people. First of all, you were standing in front of 500 people, and fear of public speaking is a big deal, right? Everybody, to the level of not even if you are comfortable, I'm comfortable, you're comfortable. We still have the anxiety before you get started, and you self-evaluate yourself anyways. I know me when I stand there, I know if I was good, if I was medium, if I did bad. You tell, your energy, how you. But you're right. There are people, especially when you do that large group. Sometimes you don't even see them.
No, you don't.
When you do a smaller group, it's even worse because you got like people stare at you. And now you have one person. See, I always do this. I zone in on one person and I find the one that gets the vibe. And that's the one that I really like, And you see comedians do that on stages and performers. They start, finding some people on the audience that actually relate and they can make it better for them as opposed to getting somebody that is really going to bore them and stuff. And I've had people actually that challenge me on presentations and stuff. But, you have to deal with them. But you're right. It's the perception or the lens or the angle they look at it. See, I give this analogy all the time. Is the view the same on the first floor versus the roof? Is the view the same on the mount or in the moon? If you were in the moon, I mean, you'll see the Earth in a different light as opposed to in a plane, or if you were just on Mount Everest or even in a skyscraper. So the higher you go, the visual is better. You can see it better. But people are narrow vision. They just look at, they're very like small visual, span. They look at immediate environment. They don't see the big picture, or they don't want to see the big picture. And then they're judgmental. That's the other thing. People judge you for how you look, how you dress, you know, your accent, whatever. They'll find a reason to criticize. And even when you give positive stuff, and by the way, I experience this, me and my wife, we experience this all the time through social media because we do a lot of, stuff, we're active. And you put a post that is valuable, and then someone out there goes in and put a comment, and then they have nothing to offer except that negative comment. You know, I'm like, really get alive. I mean, seriously. And again, so much that I even put, some stuff out there, say, you don't like what you hear. This is not for you. Get out, move somewhere else, find something else. But don't come to my house, and again, this is my rule. This is my house, my rules, my United States.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely. You just can't, that's not, shouldn't prevent you from doing what you need to do out there and going out there and getting it. So, and people who are these trolls, they're just sad and they have no life and they're not getting out in front of 500 people and talking and sharing their wisdom. And that's what's so weird about doing virtual presentations, because I love these recordings like this, because I can talk to you, I can see you. It makes me feel so good. But when you do virtual presentations, a lot of time when you're presenting at conferences virtual, you don't see anybody. It's like talking to yourself for 45, 50 minutes. And it's such a different vibe. But being in front of people, I have been in front of, I used to call my students the dead class. There's like classes, no matter how energetic you are, they're just dead. So you just have to learn how to really love yourself and be your authentic self and show up the way you do. And those who need you and will hear you will hear you. And those who won't, they can go find themselves something else to do.
Well, or they can listen to this and get positive, right?
Well, I hope. A lot of people, this doesn't move a lot of people. They're just like, they blow it off. Sure, you haven't had any, it's easy for you to be positive. When I've had a ton of challenges, health challenges, personal challenges, financial challenges, and I've still managed to stay positive, which is why today I'm doing so well. But some people just can't hear that, and that's okay. I'm not here to save the world. I'm just here to reach those people who need to hear this message and are open to it.
Well, we had a discussion about the Matrix, the blue pill and the red pill. Pick the pill you want. I mean, at the end of the day, it's whatever you want to get. If you want to get it, you get it. If not, I can't help you. You can take the horse to the water. You can make them drink, right?
Exactly.
So it's funny. We're almost coming to the end of the show, but I wanted to share this because when I was in university, I was part of the artistic. It was like I was part of the a team that we did like theater and all the stuff, music, dancing, and so we had a piece that we had to do for travel, and so the first audience we were given was actually a bunch of generals and military. So the dean said, if you can make these guys laugh, you'll make it happen. And actually, we had a standing ovation with everybody.
That's
Well, that was our test. I mean, if we can make these guys really like feel it, we can take it next level. So it was one of the most important, days of our lives at the time. Like, oh my God, we got to go in front of these guys. But you're right. I mean, you do the best, and everybody, I don't care how successful they are, you can always have a bad day.
Yes.
And unfortunately, when I look at someone, I don't judge them. I always find a reason why they didn't do a good job.
Ask any athlete.
Yes.
And I flip the switch, and I know we're running out of time, but I always flip the script. What happened if every basketball player in the NBA made a basket every time they threw a basket, or every football player, every time there was a play, got a touchdown? I mean, it would be the most boring thing on the planet. The beauty of sports are the mistakes and the trying harder. So it's the same thing. You just, it's you don't want that perfection. You really want to have that variety in life.
Well, so Doctor, I want to ask you as we come into the end of the show today, and I'm having a blast here. What would be three things you want the audience to live with right now? Just three elements that we've talked a lot about stuff, but if you just want to give them 3 pointers right now to keep, as their core elements to use as tools, what would they be?
Number one, when you wake up in the morning, you make a choice to either be miserable or happy. I say be happy. It's a great way to start off your day. Second of all, keep a strengths journal. Every day, write down at the end of the day the 5 things you did well and what about you added to that ability to do it well, because that really builds up your confidence and your strengths when you're trying to do some changing. And number three, truly believe in yourself. Work that core confidence muscle, just like you go out to a workout every day and work your quads or any other part of your core. Work that core confidence, because when you're confident about yourself, people are going to want to be with you, buy your product, and really would admire that. So just that's what the three things I would say.
And those are powerful things. And if anyone can just take even one of them and apply it, at a time, you will still be able to see the positivity and get the success. And so with that, you know, Dr. Laurie, thank you for being on the show. It was a great one. We had a great blast here and certainly a lot of insights I think, can, give a lot of folks out there positivity and a good vibe and a good energy. Folks, thank you for watching on the Higher Health channel, listening on the Higher Health Radio. Hurricane H here. We'll be talking tomorrow night. Ciao, ciao.